Hi Dragons, I am here to help you with a couple of the most challenging problems on today's work assignment. I've only chosen 3, but I do recommend you take notes with me so that you'll be prepared when you get to them on your slides. Alright, the first one is one of the more basic questions. Find the area of each figure. Note the figure is not drawn to scale. We're going to write enumerable response only, no labels, inside the box. I chose this one because they're giving you a lot of numbers, and I wanted to see if you know which ones to choose. So ultimately, at this point, we should know the formula for the area of a triangle. So the formula for the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height, and that is derived from knowing that a triangle could be composed into a parallelogram, but only 1/2 of it is needed to represent the area. On this one, they give us 4 different number sets. We only need 2 of them. We have to figure out which 2 we need. Sometimes, if you're stuck, and I get stuck too, flip the shape until it resembles something you're more comfortable with. If this makes you uncomfortable, spin it until you can see what feels like the base and what feels like the height. I tend to feel like the base is grounded. I like that this one is flat. I'm more comfortable with that. So for me, I want to call that the base. And then I can see that they did the imaginary extension here, and they did a right angle, which we know is mandatory for the height. So if that's the base, that has to be the height. And I'm comfortable with that. So I'm going to turn it back around. Here we go. So that's going to be your base. And it might feel unusual because it's not at the bottom. I think a lot of people want to make this the base, but then there's nobody that's 90 degrees to it, so it gets a little confusing. And that's your height. And now that we're comfortable knowing who is who, we can just put it into the formula. So it's going to be 1/2 base, which is 20, times height, which is 12.5. I'm just going to plug that in the calculator really quick. Quick. Zip, zip, zip. 20 times 12.5 divided by 2, 125. So when you type it in to the box that's going to be provided for you on the Google form, you would put 125. I don't want you to put centimeters square or square centimeters because the Google forms don't read them that well. All right. You did. Excellent job there. So that's one of your more basic formulaic area of a triangle problems. The next one, on the other hand, is a little bit sneakier. I found this one a little more challenging, so I wanted to give you some strategies to attack it. A large triangle is made up of 2 small triangles as shown. The area of the small dark gray triangle is 124 6/10 square meters. So they're saying this guy is 124.6 square meters. Find the area of the large triangle. Okay, when I first saw this, I thought I knew it really fast, and then I realized I didn't know it really fast. So I'm going to turn it, because I know the area of this guy. I could find the area of this guy and add the 2. Or another strategy would be to find what this base is here, and then do base times height divided by 2. I actually went with strategy number 2 when I first read this problem, and you don't have to do that, but it is where I went. I knew that 124.6 was the area. I had to multiply that by 2 because I'm working in reverse, and divided it by 17.8, and I found out that this base was 14. Now, I went by that pretty fast, so let me show you mathematically what I did. I said And this is just a small triangle here I'm talking about. The small gray one. I said I knew that area was 124.6. And I didn't know the base, but I knew the height was 17.8. And then I solved it using algebraic reasoning. This is really why I wanted you to see this one. So I need to isolate the variable here. This is a multi-step problem. I could take 1/2 of 17.8. Let's see, 17.8 divided by 2 equals 8.9. That's one way to handle it. Or I could multiply by 2 on both sides, which is actually mathematically what I did. I said, I'm going to multiply this whole side by 2, and I'm going to multiply this entire side by 2. And there's a reason I'm showing you this longer method, because it's applicable to the following problem. So this 1/2 cancels with this 2. Because 2 times 1/2 is 1. But I still need to multiply 2 times 124.6. I'm using my calculator right now. 249.2. Now remember, the 2 times the 1/2 resulted in 1, so that's over. It's done. This is b times 17.8. I can put this coefficient in front of b. Because of the commutative property, I'm allowed to swap them. That's totally fine. Now this should be a more reasonable algebraic situation for you. You can see that the 17.8 and b are being multiplied, and in order to separate them, you have to do the inverse operation. So at this point, I need you to divide. You need to divide both sides by 17.8, which means b is left alone, because 17.8 divided by 17.8 is 1b. So now I'm going to take this here and pop it in my calculator really quick. And I can see that the other base to the small triangle is 14, which is what I told you it was. So I broke that down for you. Now that I have that information, I can find the area of the bigger triangle. Let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to flip it around again. This whole thing is the base, which tells me I need to add 16.5 and 14 together. So the entire base is 16.5 plus 14, which is 30.5. 30 and 5/10. The height is unchanged. 17.8, 17 and 8/10. So now I can get the area of the big triangle. Flip, flip, flip. So area formula is unchanged, 1/2 base times height. I just discovered my new base is 30 and 5/10. My height is 17 and 8/10. I'm going to take all that information and pop it in my calculator. There we go. Let's see. 30.5 times 17.8 equals, divided by 2. Multiplying by 1/2 is the exact same as dividing by 2. This tells me that the largest triangle is 271 and 45/100ths. Or we can try the other method. We can try just finding the area of this little guy. This little guy here, let's go in with a different color. Since I already knew the area of this one, I could have found the area of the lighter small one. So this one was the dark shaded small. Let's do the light small one. That's what I need to do. So I do have enough information already here where I could say 1/2, the base was 16.5, and the height here was 17.8. And I can punch that in my calculator. Let's see, we got 16.5 times 17.8. Divide that by 2. I'm going to get 146 and 85 hundredths. That would be just this part, 146.85. Now, the question asks for the entire thing, which I solved already. I showed you one method. Now I'm showing you another method where I can break it up into 2 of the smaller parts. When we add these, I'm really hoping to get this. If I don't get this, then I've made an error somewhere. So we're going to discover this together. Right, there's the calculation we just got, plus the original 124.6, and I'm happy, because when I added them together, I got that, and that's what we're hoping for. So the big thing is, if you look at the whole big triangle, it should be 271 and 45 hundredths, or you break it down into 2 smaller triangles and add them together. Either way, you're going to get the right answer. Then there might be students out there who come up with even yet another strategy, but those were the 2 strategies that came to my mind. So there's some work on those, so you can get those right. And there's just one more we need to cover so that you'll feel prepared for these questions. It's going to look so simple, but it's harder than it looks. So the area of a triangle is 23 square yards. Okay? Its base is 8 yards. What is the height? Now, you might be a visual sort of person, so you might be thinking, all right, I've got my little triangle. Boom. And the whole thing is 23 square yards. And my base is 8, which means they're talking about this guy. And they're saying, hey, I don't know the height. The height is unknown. H equals question mark. We don't know. Now, had this been a parallelogram, we would have just done 23 divided by 8 and we'd be done. And I know there's a lot of temptation out there to say 23 divided by 8 will get my answer. Unfortunately, it will not get your answer. This is a little bit more algebraic than that. And I can show you and prove to you that it is by putting this into the formula for you. So it doesn't work because triangle's half of a parallelogram. Our little shortcut isn't going to work, what we thought would work. We've got 1/2 is unchanged. The base is 8. We don't know the height, but we do know the area is 23. Now, hopefully that I wrote it into the formula. And I wrote it out. I hope you can see now why 23 divided by 8 does not work. It's not that simple. It's not a rectangle. It's not a parallelogram. It's something more complicated. But you do have the math skills to do this. This is just algebra. So you can just simplify it step by step. We could take 1/2 of 8 and call it 4h. That's fine. I like to get rid of fractions as soon as I can. I don't like working with fractions. So for me, I want to get rid of the 1/2 by multiplying by 2. Because 1/2 times 2 is just 1. So my temptation is to take this whole thing and multiply by 2. But if I do it to the one side of the equal sign, in order to maintain the equality, I have to do it to the other side. So I have to multiply that by 2. I'm not feeling bad about this because I know the 1/2 and the 2 create 1, which essentially works itself out. 2 times 23 looks like 46. 1/2 went away, so now I am 8h. Now we are a very simple one-step equation. And you can solve these. You've done these. 8 and h are being multiplied, so to separate them we have to divide. So 46 divided by 8 in my calculator says 5.75 equals the height. .75 is allegedly the height. And it is correct. Now, when you get to this problem, you're not going to want to put the yards in the answer You're just going to put the numbers in the answer. My recommendation when you would have problems like this, draw a sketch, use the formula, use some algebraic reasoning. I think a lot of us want to shortcut it, and then we make foolish mistakes that we didn't see coming. But now that I wrote it all out, it seems so obvious that this is the correct answer. So, to finish off my sketch, height equals 5 7/75. How do you check your work? I could take the calculator out and do 8 times 5.75 equals divided by 2 equals, and I better get the original area, and I did. That's how you check your work. So I hope this little mini video helps you with this assignment. There's several challenging problems on here. Take your time. Use your calculator. Good luck, dragons!